Very good morning and a warm welcome to this webinar on menu engineering. Menu engineering is a very good menu management system that helps in enhance profitability and customer satisfaction for the bakeries and restaurants and any other food service concern. This is Chef Tanga. I am growing up with this hospitality industry for over 30 years, especially in food service and development areas. I am the founder now for Culinary Exchange, and I also work as a lead consultant here. Culinary Exchange is a food service consulting company offering a wide variety of services for bakeries, restaurants, cafes, and all food related industries. Engineering is a very big subject. Today, we will see a brief and comprehensive presentation on this subject. There are few problems in our food industry. Everybody, you go see a cafe owner or a bakery owner or a restaurant owner, probably they will have this complaints they will put up these complaints up that their profit is not good in comparison with their sales. Sometimes they say they are not getting any new customer, and sometimes they lose their old customers as well. They are not getting good reviews in social media. Sometimes they see a lot of wastage in the kitchen on few time. How do we resolve all this? To resolve all this, a proper menu engineering system may give you a lot of help to resolve all these major problems. Any menu engineering process, like any process, have the following steps. These steps is to create actually to collect the uh, right data and use those data systematically to make sure the menu engineering process is done effectively. They are yield testing, standard recipes, food cost, selling price, margin contribution, menu analysis, popularity analysis, and changes in the menu while drafting. First, in any menu engineering or any cost management, our first step should be yield testing. What is yield testing? We will see. We buy ingredients in the market. When we clean, remove the unusable products, unusable parts, and arrive to a smaller portion of usable product. Here, yield is the amount of usable product from the set amount of whole food. Why do we do yield testing? We do this to make sure we know the right value of the usable product in the recipe. We also do this to know our money's actual worth when buying our ingredients. This is also been done to compare two or three different suppliers and their products. This has also been done to see the changes in the different seasons. Again, yield is very important, and it is defined as the amount of usable product from a set amount of whole food.
Chef, there is a question from one of our viewers, and they ask us how can we do yield testing in bakeries?
In bakery, normally we get everything ready to use, like our maida or baking powder or sugar, water, margarine, butter, everything we get it as ready to use state. In this, we can do yield testing for our when we making our fillings. Suppose you are going to make a vegetable filling or a chicken filling, we will be able to see the yield of the chicken what we buy. Suppose we buy a chicken, we remove the skin. We normally use boneless meat. Instead of if you see by buying the chicken, removing all the skin and other parts, making it boneless, we always get a boneless chicken or boneless or chicken mince. In this bakery, there is one major product we need to seriously monitor, which is our maida. Maida normally has a moisture content of around 12%. That means in 1 kilo maida there is 120 ml of or grams of water is present as moisture content. This we need to make sure this doesn't go beyond 13 or 14%. If it goes beyond 13 or 14%, naturally we will lose a lot of yield and hence we will lose a lot of profitability. Is it okay?
Thank you, Chef. Thank you so much.
Thanks. In this slide, we see uh, yield testing of cauliflower. Our objectives in yield testing is to understand the yield of usable quantity and price of the same. Suppose we buy cauliflower. Let us try to see a yield testing in cauliflower here. We buy, we take 1 kilo of cauliflower. If we clean cut, we get around 400 grams of cauliflower florets. This is what is the usable quantity. From this 1000 grams, we get 400 grams of usable product. Hence, the yield of this cauliflower is 400 grams or 40%. How do we find the price of this particular cauliflower florets? Price of this usable part is equal to 50, which is price of the whole food, divided by the yield, which is 400 gram, multiplied by 1000, which is whole foods weight, which we have taken for yield testing. This formula will be useful for you in any taking yield test on any product like chicken, fish, lamb, or any product we use in our food production. We find from this formula, we find the price of a cauliflower florets is rupees 125 per kilogram. It is a surprise to us if we don't think that 125 kilos which is costing, our recipe will not be calculated properly. It is important for any running business, be it a bakery or a restaurant or a cafe or anybody, they should do their yield testing at least once in 3 months. Here we see a standard recipe. There is a small sample I have given here. It's a very simple example. In this we have given floret of cauliflower at its unit of measurement as kilos. The quantity we have written as 0.15, which is 150 grams. Rate is here, it says 125 rupees. Okay, here in the other column we have shown the amount, which is 125 into 0.15, which is 18.75. Like this we calculate all the recipe items and their actual amount. The standard recipe can help you in maintaining the following things. One is main reason for a standard recipe is sustained consistent quality. If you have a recipe card and you make anytime you do a production, you follow the recipe card religiously, your quality on consistency will remain the same. Next, we also do it to make sure we use the right quantity of ingredients in the production. Also, we provide the right quantity of food every time to be served to the customer. This is again consistency in profitability. Cost of all ingredients can be managed with this. Just to understand, everybody will, by looking at this recipe card, everybody will understand, even your assistant cook will understand this particular product is costing so much, and they will understand, they will naturally follow how to save those ingredients. They will not indulge in wasting anything. It's also help you in training your people. Naturally, a recipe card is an easier and clear document. You can give it to anybody. They will be able to see and follow. You have to do your little bit of training on this, so that your continued development of and training and development will be a very good part in this. Suppose somebody want to scale up. They have one shop. They want to scale it up to another shop or another shop. This recipe cards will help you in a big way, because every time you go, you will not be able to take a big team, or we don't have, we won't be able to take a whole team, whole team to the new shop. Maybe you'll have to send 2-3 people from the old unit. The new unit will be maybe 60-70% new staff. When training them, it will be really very helpful.
Chef Thanga, Rahul here. I have a
Yes, sir.
question on the previous slide. Now, the recipe card that you showed typically was for a hotel which probably has a negotiated rate contract where the rate remains static for a month. Now, what do we do in case of smaller bakeries and smaller restaurants where there is no negotiated rate contract, and the vegetables are bought on a daily basis, or the ingredients are bought on a daily basis? How do we arrive at a cost for calculating the standard recipe in the previous slide that you've shown forward, sir?
See, these standard recipes for a smaller business, it is little difficult, I understand, but we can always take use of your previous bills. Suppose in a year, throughout 365 days, your prices are not going to be the same, but at least you can have an average price per kilo. Suppose cauliflower is sold 50 rupees today and 100 rupees 3 months down the line. It may be 10 rupees sometime. To understand, you try to understand a average price per kilo. This will definitely will give you some kind of a understanding on this price factor.
Thank you, Chef. So we arrive at a mean value, keeping the fluctuating
Yeah,
prices, and go ahead for costing with the mean value.
definitely.
Thank you, Chef.
Thanks. And also one more thing I'm trying to see, if we see the yield testing, you understand the usable quantity, that price normally will come to a will be that quality will remain the same. So there may be no much difference in the product quality. Only the price will change. You can have a different kind of a pricing, understanding that average pricing in summer may be this, average pricing in winter may be this, something like that. 2 different or 3 different seasons.
Thank you, Chef.
Here we see food cost. Food cost is the most talked about subject, but most of the people have their own understanding of food cost. Somebody will say they add labor cost into it. Somebody, you can see some people are calculating gas also with the food cost. You can see some people calculate their electricity bills also with the food cost. See, by understanding what is food cost, by calculating this systematically, definitely will help you your business on a very long run. Food cost is only the cost of the materials we use to make a product. Only this. If for the menu item, the food cost is cost of all the raw materials we use to make one portion of this dish. That's it. For a business, a monthly food cost can be calculated this way. This is the cost of all the raw materials we use in a month's time. The monthly food cost can be calculated by seeing opening stock plus new stock, new purchases, and minus closing stock. Here I give a small understanding for consumption, which is suppose we buy, we have by 1st of April, say we have 100 bags of rice, and during the whole month of April, say we buy around 200 bags of rice, and end of the month on 30th of April evening, we see a closing stock of 50 bags. Then our consumption is 250 kilos. This means the business has consumed 250 kilos of rice during the month of April in this year. Like this, we need to take the consumption of all the raw materials, and then only we will be able to understand what is the actual consumption. When we understand what is the actual consumption, based with the price, we will be able to understand what is our food cost over the period of that particular month. For a business, I try to give a small example here. Assume a restaurant is monthly sale is 3 lakh rupees. They spend about 30,000 on rent, 60,000 on salary, 50,000 on fuels and power, around 12,000 on packaging material, and 6,000 on miscellaneous expenses. The total overhead calculates here is 1,23,000. And any business need profit. Suppose this particular business has a target profit of 45,000 every month. How do we calculate our budgeted food cost? We calculate our budgeted food cost for the month is, you see the sale, which is 3 lakh, and minus total of all our overheads plus the profit what we are looking at, which is coming up to 3 lakh minus 1,68,000, which is amount to 1,32,000. This is the food cost. This is the amount we can spend in a particular month on our food cost. If you want to see a percentage on this, food cost percentage is equal to all the money we spend on food divided by all the sales we make in a month multiplied by 100. Here it is coming up to 44%. If anybody has any doubt on this, you can ask, because this is very important subject and this is a very important stage. I can clear it off here itself so that they will not have any misunderstanding later.
From a perspective of keeping in mind the bakeries and sweets divisions in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, the southern states typically, what would be a fair food cost percentage for an average bakery?
That's what we are trying to understand from this particular marker. Everybody will have a different food cost percentage based on the size of their business, based on the locality they are in, based on the number of people they are employing, based on number of outlets they have, based on what they spend for this whole business. So if your overheads are high, your food cost is also high. Your salary is high, your food cost is also will become high. Your profit requirement is high, naturally your food cost percentage also will become very, very low. Because suppose you make 100 rupees, suppose you spend 60 rupees or 70 rupees on profit, on your overhead, you will have only 30% left for food cost. That's why we try to understand here. The food cost is actually your monthly sale minus the total of overheads plus the expected profit. If your overheads become high, then naturally you will have very less money to spend for your food cost. In this slide, possibly we should be able to understand that whatever is your sale, that minus total of overheads minus profit is actually defining your food cost. So you have to make sure what is your overheads. By reducing your overhead, actually you can have a better food cost. So
Noted, Chef. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks. So there is another term people use. It is called cost markup. Cost markup is also connected to food cost. In this thing, suppose the same example, we can see cost markup works like monthly sale divided by the total amount of food cost, which is here it is coming 2.27. Okay. This we will use it on a later time. I will let you know where I will remind you of this particular thing again. This we also arrive this cost markup by dividing 100 by our food cost percentage. Here 100 divided by 44 is equal to 2.27. Here we see selling price. There's a lot of business fail or struggle for one major problem because they don't fix their selling price properly. Suppose you spend 100 rupees on one particular product, your product from the previous slide, suppose your budgeted food cost is 30%, your your markup is 3, you have to multiply your food cost in by with your cost markup, that is 100 rupees into 3, that is 300 rupees. You have to sell anything less than nothing less than 300 rupees, then only you will see the profit coming out. Okay, there are tools available to fix a profitable selling price. There are different ways we can fix a price. It is based on market, your size, your offerings. These are all the following things we should consider before fixing a selling price. Your actual cost, food cost into cost markup. This is what we have trying to explain the previous slide. Suppose your cost markup is 4, your food cost is 100 rupees, your price of your food is 4 into 100, which is 400 rupees. Suppose your cost markup is less, your selling price also will become less. If your cost markup is more, your selling price also will be more. You also price according to the popularity of a particular menu item. Somebody say, I make the best product and there is a lot of customer for it. This particular person can increase the price a little bit higher. Amenities and experience you provide to the customer. If you see, there are few restaurants will offer children's play area. They offer air conditioning. They offer live music in there. These people can put their price little bit higher. And you also price based on your brand value. You can see Apple phone is very expensive just because it's brand value. There is one simple way, which is the last way that most of the people use it. They fix their selling price 10% more or less compared to their comps. Here we see margin contribution. Margin contribution also related to food cost. Here we need to understand margin contribution as a very key connected to your food cost. It says margin contribution is what the menu item contribute to the gross profit of the business. Suppose you sell something for 100 rupees and your food cost is 40 rupees. 100 minus 40, 100 minus 40, 60 is actually the margin contribution. Margin contribution is the difference between the selling price and food cost. Because here we see a small example of a menu item. We discussed boiled cauliflower in the previous slide recipe card. Suppose the cauliflower price is 150 and its food cost is 31. 150 minus 31 is equal to 119. Here the margin contribution of boiled cauliflower is 119 rupees. This means the boiled cauliflower provides 119 rupees on every portion sold in that particular restaurant. Different products give different margin contribution. In a vegetarian restaurant, you can see idli contribute very less because it normally priced low, and dosa will contribute more because it normally priced high. And there are few small changes in dosa. We try to increase the price by another 10%, 15% like that. So dosa will definitely contribute more towards the margin contribution. Even in bakeries, you can see a buttercream pastry will contribute less and a fresh cream pastry will contribute more. As I said, in bakeries, the buttercream pastries will contribute less on profit, and fresh cream pastries will contribute more on profit. Let us see a margin contribution of our example menu item, boiled cauliflower. Here we have discussed it before. I am repeating again. Suppose the selling price of cauliflower is 150 and its food cost is 31 rupees. It contributes 150 minus 31, which is 119 rupees. That means every single cauliflower is sold in the restaurant will contribute 119 rupees towards the profitability. Here we have a small table. We try to see this table and understand how the margin contribution is seen. To make it easy, I try to put only 4 items in this table so that the understanding will be better. Here, first item we have already discussed, boiled cauliflower. Food cost is 31 rupees. Selling price is 150. Food cost percentage is we have given here 21%. Margin contribution is 119 rupees. We also have another menu item, mutton roast, which is food cost 125 rupees. Selling price at 200. Cost percentage is 63. It contributes only 75 rupees towards margin. Then we have chicken finger. It food cost 45 rupees. Sold at 180 rupees. Margin contribution is 135 rupees. Again, this prawn tempura, where food cost is 100 rupees. Selling price is 240. Margin contribution is 140 rupees. We will see how these menu items contribute over a period of time using menu analysis. Normally, menu analysis will help you to understand which product have contribute more to the profitability. Menu analysis provides in-depth view of each menu item's contribution in the whole menu during a span of time. It can be weekly menu analysis, daily menu analysis, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. So this is actually provide in-depth view of each menu item's contribution in a stipulated time. Let us see this model. In this, cauliflower is food cost is 21. Margin contribution is 19 rupees. During this particular day, we have taken it as a day's report, and this particular restaurant budgeted food cost is 40%. So cauliflower offers 119 per portion, and we have sold 3 numbers in that particular day, and total contribution of cauliflower is 356. And here we also see the contributing percentage. Out of all the contribution, we will see how much the cauliflower have contributed. Here we have calculated as 15%. Next, we have a chicken finger. Chicken finger individual contribution is 135 per portion. It has sold around 10 numbers and it contributed 1350 rupees, and their percentage of contribution is 58%. Then we have prawn tempura. Cost is 42%, and it offer 24% of margin contribution here. Then we have see the mutton roast. The cost is 75 rupees. It sold only one and it contributed only 3% of the total margin contribution. Same way we can do the menu analysis on a monthly basis, and then we will have a clear idea as which product is selling more or less and how much is their contribution in your total revenue and profitability. Suppose Mr. Rahul asked me some time back, how do we calculate the food cost or yield in a different market, smaller market, because they are buying things on a daily basis. This menu analysis will definitely give you some kind of an information. If you do menu analysis every month, you will be able to understand how profitability of each product is changing. Suppose you have a chicken puff. 1 month the chicken price may be 160. After over a period of another 2 months, it may be 100. So by doing this menu analysis, we definitely will be able to understand what is the contribution from each product or menu item. Suppose you see this month you see our regular profitable item is giving less contribution. Naturally, you can try to tweak the menu a little bit so that you can go back to your previous profit percentage. Popularity. See, whatever we put in the menu, there are few items will sell very good, few items will sell normally, and there are few items will not sell at all. This is called popularity of a menu item. This also let us know if we price the menu right, we get reasonable profit. Some people may be selling biryani at 120 rupees. They may sell a lot of biryani every day, but at the end of the month, if they look at their profitability, they will not get anything what they are expecting. For the very simple reason, they are not actually pricing that particular biryani properly. If they price it properly, by selling more, they will get more profit. You can see some businesses, they sell a lot of products, but end of the day they say, I am selling a lot, but my profit is very, very less. This is because if you sell a popular item at a lower price, possibly you end up taking a loss. During popularity analysis, we ask few questions on each menu item. They are, is it popular and is it profitable? Let us see a sample table here with the same 4 menu items here. Chicken finger, we see, is it popular? It is popular because it is contributing percentage is 58%. Okay, so you sell for 100 rupees, 58 rupees you have sold this particular item, or you have sold 100 product, 58 products is this percentage is this particular product. So chicken finger is actually contributing more, so it is definitely a popular product. Is it profitable? We have to see what is the food cost of chicken finger. Our food cost of chicken finger is 25%. Okay, our budget food cost is 40%. 25% is way less than 40%. So definitely this is a profitable menu item. Same way, you can see prawn tempura. Is it popular? It is popular because it is selling 24% more. And is it profitable? It is not profitable because the food cost of prawn tempura is 42%, but our cost budget is only 40. It has 2% more than our budgeted food cost, so this is not profitable. Next, you will see boiled cauliflower. It sold only 15%. It contributed only 15%. So it is not a very popular item. So we call it not popular. Is it profitable? Yes, it is profitable because the food cost is only 21%, where our budgeted food cost is 40%. Next, we will see the mutton roast. Mutton roast is contributed only 3% towards the profitability, and it has a food cost of 63%. That means it is not popular and not profitable. This is also a very important step in profitability analysis. If anybody can have any doubt, if you want to clear it now, you can do right away. We will try to understand better so that we can pass to the next slide.
Chef, while pricing
Yeah.
the menu, should we also probably in a smaller town, not a city, but in a smaller town, should we also keep the competitive price of our competitors in mind, or just keep the overheads as a key element?
Actually, when we have to work on our pricing, firstly, I would have explained before, we also consider our comp set. Comp set is, suppose you have a business, you have to identify 4 or 5 of your nearest competitors. It's like, suppose Adyar Ananda Bhavan is there in Krompet. They have to identify in their comp set, which is very, very important for them, so that they can price according to the comp set. Comp set is nothing, it is your immediate competition. Suppose I would say Krompet, I know better this particular area. So suppose Adyar Ananda Bhavan wants to do their pricing, they have to compare with Balaji Bhavan, they have to compare with Vasudha Bhavan. So they will take Balaji Bhavan's price list, they will take Vasudha Bhavan price list, they will see item to item, they will compare. Suppose idli, they will see, suppose they have a 5 different competition in that market, they will put all the 5 prices of idli, they will total that all the 5 prices. Suppose one person may be selling at 10 rupees, one person may be selling at 12 rupees, one person may be selling at 9 rupees. They will see the average pricing of that particular menu item. Okay, that will be your comp set pricing average. Suppose your average pricing coming to 100 rupees. Suppose in the idli, suppose your average pricing is coming to 10 rupees, where your pricing can be 9 rupees. It can't be less than that. If you put less than that, your profitability will get a hit. And you cannot price more than 11 rupees, which is 10% more of this average comp set pricing, which is 11 rupees. Where people may feel, okay, you are little expensive, but considering your quality and your reputation, they still come to your place. If you price that beyond 10% of comp set average, people may feel you are a very, very expensive restaurant with no proper reason to back it. Is it okay?
Thank you, Chef.
Yeah. So we have seen so far food cost, recipe, food cost, the selling price, menu contribution, menu analysis, and popularity analysis. We have used all our data and completed our popularity analysis. Now we have our all the information we need to change or do any changes in the menu or write a new menu. Okay, before this particular thing, you need to start creating an action plan based on each menu item, and we also do a action accordingly. Here we will see a small table here. Here the menu item is chicken fingers. It is popular and profitable. So we don't have to do anything about it. It is selling more and it is giving good profit. What do? We keep this menu item in our next menu, and we also try to sell a little bit more so that we can get a better profit. Next item is prawn tempura. It is popular but not profitable. Something is selling more, but it is not giving us enough profit. So what we need to do is, the action plan here is, we have to keep this item in the menu, and we also try to reduce the food cost by doing some kind of a changes in the recipe card. What we are trying to example action taken is, they have reduced, they normally give 6 numbers of prawn in a prawn tempura portion. Now they try to reduce it to 5 numbers so that they will save around 10-15% on the cost of the prawn. So possibly they should be able to sell more. Just to make sure the plate looks full, they try to add a little inexpensive small quantity salad in the plate so that the plate looks full. Here the boiled cauliflower, it is not popular, but it is very profitable. What we need to do is, we need to keep this in the menu. At the same time, we'll have to do a very good promotion so that we can sell this product more. In this action taken, what we have taken, we have promoted in a new section of healthy menu, and in the plate we offer some more healthy elements to it. Maybe you can give a ragi toast, or maybe we can give a garlic toast, something like that. The next one is mutton roast. In this mutton roast, actually it is not profitable, it is not popular. So we better remove this from the menu and try to bring in a different mutton item which can be a little bit less in cost. Possibly we try to promote it to sell more. Now we have done your action plan, and you also have taken enough action. Now it is time to draft your new menu. Now we have to understand, we have understood what gives us more profit. What any business want to sell is what gives us more profit. So we try to keep all the things that gives us profit. If something is not giving enough profit, possibly we try to tweak the menu. Without affecting the quality, we try to understand, we will try to increase the profitability of those items. It is time to highlight those profitable items where all we can highlight. We can highlight them in our menu card, we can highlight them in our store walls, we can do a lot of promotion on these particular products, we can do a lot of advertisement using these particular products. We also try to sell it by suggestive selling. Somebody comes to the restaurant, some people normally ask, what is your special? Then you try to suggest what is your most profitable item here. The final draft of menu is ready. Now we are going to design the menu card. In that, we need to consider the following things. We can do, we should place the popular and profitable items on the top right hand corner of the menu card. Normally when you open them with attractive images, you can tag them with a signature, chef special, or bestseller, a top selling item, something like that. You also highlight them with the, promote them with nice images of profitable items in the cover of your menu. Yeah, I hope we touched upon all the important steps of menu engineering in such a short time. You may contact us for any further information and for any service you may need in the future. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can we take the questions now, Chef? Yeah.
Please, please, please.
Yeah. Can we have Mr. Gautam?
Morning. It's a wonderful presentation, Chef. I'm really so happy that I attended your conference.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now, so my question is about combi ovens.
Yes, sir.
How much beneficial are combi ovens to a regular kitchen cooking of a hotel or a standalone restaurant? With including the bakery products, and how much beneficial is a combi oven if for a standalone bakery?
So it all depends how much you produce in what quantities.
Okay.
Suppose you have it also depends the size of the combi oven. The combi ovens are coming in different sizes.
Yeah.
Okay, combi oven is very energy efficient, and it also uses water as a main resource to heat the product all around the product. So it is a very effective electricity saving equipment.
Okay.
And end product is also here there is no this is a very smaller chances of human error. Suppose
Yeah.
you cook something, you put it in the oven. Okay, you set that program so that whatever is your program, it will cook only according to that particular program. So combi oven definitely will be a boon here, and we need to understand all the producers of combi oven or dealers are supposed to think about how to reach this to the lowest level of bakeries or restaurants, so that everybody will be able to use this particular amazing product. At the same time, they also need to train the whole industry on this particular equipment. I'll be happy to see combi oven everywhere.
I just have one more question about the combi ovens.
Yes, sir.
I've seen nearly most of the brands.
Okay.
Unfortunately, everybody are making claims about humidity measurement in the combi oven, but nobody has any definite answer if I ask them, how are you doing the humidity measurement? The suppliers don't have answers. I mean, concrete answers. They say, okay, you have to put in the percentage. You can say 10%, 20%. Somebody says you can do by 1%. But if I ask them, how much does this 10% or 20% or 30% mean? How are you controlling the humidity inside? How do you calculate how much is the humidity inside the chamber? These guys
Sir,
can't give any different answers, sir. What is your take? What is your take on it?
I'm not an engineering guy. I'm only a cook. I will try to
Very well.
understand. Can I say answer now?
Yeah, I got your answer that you are not from the engineering side. I appreciate that. But
Yes.
In Combios, this is what I saw. I mean, the final product, quality, texture, everything can change with the humidity not being controlled properly. This is what I
Sir,
observed.
I have worked with Wipro on
Okay.
developing a triple oven, which is combi microwave. Actually, it is steam, microwave, and convection, which
Okay.
is for a major German equipment manufacturer. They are
Okay.
present here also.
Okay.
These programs are actually actually controlled in their control panel.
Okay.
They actually define what is the quantity of water goes into the oven to understand to control the humidity.
Okay.
Okay, it is heated definitely. Suppose it is a dry heat, it is 0% of moisture there.
Correct.
Say during this particular period of 30 minutes, I'm trying to explain to you.
Yeah.
30 minutes. If they send, they say 100%, 100 grams of water into the chamber, they will see the size of the chamber and see this 100% of this water. How does it contribute to the humidity of that particular cavity?
Okay.
I think this is the way they calculate. I think manufacturers should be able to explain us a little bit better.
Correct. Great, sir. I will be in touch with you. Is it the number which you have put on your slide? Can I contact you on the same mobile number there?
Definitely, sir.
Great, chef. It was a
Thank you
real
very much.
pleasure understanding food costing from you. Really
Thank you,
wonderful
sir.
presentation. And I will
Thank you.
request the organizers to send us by email copy if it is possible.
Definitely, sir.
Great.
I'm free to share, share this with anyone. Not a problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can we have Mr. Ram Vittal Rao? He has something on this. Yeah.
Morning, everybody, and Chef, thank you very much for leading us through this presentation. One of the advantages of having a combi oven inside the kitchen is that you can save space and you can have this as a vertical cooking application rather than spend money on many smaller and horizontally spread equipment. Also, the benefit of the combi oven is that multi-level cooking is possible. And if it is to do with the kitchen, you can actually stack up different kinds of what you would say cuisines together and cook in that particular way. The third point is that you can have a choice of gas operated or electrically operated combi ovens, and that also will help you in many ways depending upon what is the energy cost which you have. So this we have seen and used in many of our designs. We are basically hospitality design consultants and done a lot of work in this field of kitchen designs. And this will help. And I think so everybody who wants to benefit from that should look at it. One of the questions which was asked is about moisture control. Definitely there would be an application to measure that or instruments to measure that. Perhaps you could ask the various manufacturers this question as to how you could measure the moisture and try to control that. But at the end of the day, since most of the menus are, you are able to put it into the system by programming it, required and control of the steam is good enough to give you a good consistent steam which is required and the humidity.
Okay.
I hope it answers many of the questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for answering this question. Thank you.
Chef, add on a small detail to that humidity calculation. It is right to say that every combi ovens has about at least 50 to 60 different types of sensors planted inside the chamber and outside the chamber to calculate various measurements. When we say humidity, it can be in a different formula. In a very simple formula, it is nothing but the vapor pressure that is created inside the chamber that is directly proportional to the percentage of humidity. That is how combi oven calculates its humidity. And there is a probe that calculates the vapor pressure, and that is converted into percentage by the basic electronics that is being displayed on the screen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
Chef, I have another question. Considering the existing situation and the future business, especially for the small industries, while we price the menu and we are doing on the regular retail scale and things like that, should we seriously consider other factors like the cost that is going to be extra during the hygiene practice that is more than usual inside a premise like a small bakery or namkeen unit or a restaurant or something like that, and another factor is the delivery factor. Day by day the aggregators percentage is going high. Should we consider this and should we price the menu, or should we literally keep two different menu, one dedicated to the online sales and the aggregators with a bit higher percentage, or should we keep the same pricing? Which is more advisable from your side, Chef?
In this, there are two questions. One is, what do we do for food safety? Food safety should be your everyday practice. Okay, we are not adding anything which is, if you see 2-3 months back, what is the food safety requirement? What is the food safety requirement today? it is not a huge change. Possibly they may ask you to wear a mask. Maybe you are doing a temperature check when people are coming. Before, everybody is supposed to wash their hands. If you are in a food production area, even before, everybody was supposed to wash their hands with soap for minimum 20 seconds, and after washing they have to dry their hands, and they have to use a alcohol sanitizer with at least 70% of alcohol content to sanitize their hand, which is actually a procedure for so many years. Thing is that everybody is supposed to follow this, and few of the market will not follow. They may be saving some cost there. That's one of the reason why they are pricing their products also little on the cheaper side. So food safety is a very, very important requirement. I would see even the smallest of the bakery or a restaurant or a kiosk should follow it very, very strictly, no matter whether we have corona or not. So, okay, now with corona, there are some addition, like you have to monitor everybody, you have to allow only little people inside, you have to wear a mask and things like that. There are some complications here. Possibly, I would say at least a 5% or 10% of their price increase is possible on that particular side. Definitely, they should be able to do. And clearly, once this threat is over, I would expect everybody to go back to old pricing. This is on food safety side. On the delivery side, if you look at you have to see your profitability analysis, how much money you are making in a month. Suppose you have to look at what product you are selling, what is that menu contribution. In that menu contribution, what is actually coming as a profit. Suppose you go back to see our food cost calculation for the businesses. They have to see what is their food cost per month. Okay, accordingly they have to see what they can do here. When selling it to aggregators, I will only say the maximum a business can offer is 7 to 8% commission on these aggregators. Suppose even if you are giving 8% to these aggregators, there is a 18% GST on it, you end up giving around 9.5% from your profit. If you give anything beyond 8%, it is really not profitable for this particular business to run. And another thing, if you want to increase the price and let the people sitting at home and buying this particular product, let them pay for this extra expenses. So I don't want any business, small business will normally make around 15% of profit from their monthly sale. If they are giving 20%, 25%, or even some places 30% for these aggregators, they will not sustain in the business. You will see a lot of people closing down just because they try to sell. It is something like you win a war and you will be happy about it. You win a war and you are alive to see it. But no point in giving your life and dying even before the war is over. You have to very, very strict on what you can see or you can spend on this delivery commission. Every business should talk about, which should see their own cost, they should see their own profitability. Then they have to decide, or they have to come to a conclusion. If I want to do or give it to a delivery aggregator, I will give only this many percentages of my profit. Okay, suppose I am making 20%, I am selling say 3 lakh rupees in my own restaurant. If I want to give it to make another 1 lakh sale outside by going to the aggregators, they have to decide what is the percentage of their profit they want to shell out to this particular aggregators.
That's a nice reply. That's wonderful, Chef. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. Can we have Sadhika Venkat, Miss Sadhika Venkat?
Good morning.
Very good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for hosting this presentation. I study at the Welcome Group Graduate School of Hotel Administration. I'm a culinary arts student. My question would be, in the name of food cost control, do bakeries tend to compromise on guests' health by using ingredients like margarine and other trans fats?
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I would like to know the effect of margarine and how we could eliminate the use of it because it has an adverse effect on guests' health.
Choosing by choosing a right vendor, uh, the customer or a general public can decide what they want. You have to understand, suppose you buy 1 kilo chicken, you cook at home and you feed three people, maybe 2 meals in that particular day. That means it has served 6 people 6 portions of 1 kilo chicken, right? Suppose it is served 6 people. Okay, let us take it in this way. You go to a restaurant and you expect a biryani for 100 rupees. Naturally, the person who's selling have to find some shortcut to reduce his cost. It is number one is general public's understanding of how food works, and the manufacturer or anybody who's in the food industry should not compromise and go to something which is not good for health. Okay, when we come into margarine, the margarine is present in a lot of food you may not know. Margarine is present in ice creams. Margarine is present in ready-made chapatis or parathas and everything. So it is your personal choice, and you have to choose what you want and how you want to do it. Normally, using margarine is not to reduce the cost. Possibly, FSSAI may come to a ruling said they should use what kind of fat they are using in the particular product. If butter is being used, they should say what butter is used as a fat. If they say ghee is used, they should declare in their packaging, and they should everybody should know what kind of a fat they are using in that particular product. Like you can see, there's a lot of vegetarian restaurants will say we use refined oil for cooking. That means they are declaring that they are using refined oil. They are not using ghee as anybody may expect. Is it all right?
Thank you. I think her question was how to eliminate trans fat. Is there any possibility of eliminating trans fat? That is what she was asking.
Actually, it's the choice of the customer. The choice of the customer. They have to ask that business owners or business people, are you using any trans fat? If they say yes, you don't buy from them. Or there are particular products they use trans fat. There are certain products they don't use trans fat. So it is your choice what you want to buy. And I would I would expect every single business should declare what fat they are using in any particular product. Suppose you buy a croissant from a shop, they should say whether it is made from butter or margarine. It is the choice of the customer whether to buy it or not.
There's another question from Mr. Sugumar asking if we price a popular menu item high for a highly priced item, and will there be a comparison with the other restaurants around the vicinity of the same restaurant? And if we price it high, will there be a concern? That is this question.
As a business, it is our responsibility to educate your customer. and you have to make noise as what you are doing to safeguard their health. So if you make enough noise and you tell them what you are doing, recently I have seen one chef is actually showing their production process in a video, say that we are doing this is this to make sure your food reaches your home safe. So you have to tell them what you are using, what kind of system you are using to make sure this particular food is very safe at this particular time of crisis. Then possibly you can increase your price. See, your pricing is always based on your cost. So please remember, whatever you do on pricing, you only follow the actual food cost. You see the popularity of that particular product. You see what else you are offering extra with that particular food. Suppose you say, I am offering a sanitizer, I am offering a napkin, I am offering a completely different packaging, I am offering something different. So naturally you can charge extra. And here also there is okay, one particular brand is considered safe, the other brand is considered not safe. So the brand value also makes a lot of difference. And also you remember, whatever the price you fix, ask yourself, will you buy it from outside for this particular price? If that is, you feel okay, yes, then naturally anybody else will buy this on a same price.
Thank you, Chef. I think most of the questions which have been asked are repeated questions, and most of it has been answered. And however, we will extend your contact details to the participants, and they will reach out to you individually. So
Yeah.
please feel free to reach out to Chef Tanga and ask him further questions or any clarifications on this. Thank you so much for the wonderful topic
Thank you
on
very
menu
much.
engineering. And it was indeed a pleasure having you here today. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.